Hello everyone, welcome back. Actually, welcome to our new apartment. We finally made it out to Los Angeles.
Yes, finally.
And we are ready to record some new reviews. Starting off with, tonight we are going to see the Avengers Age of Ultron. And leading up to that, we have made our way through the entire MCU now.
Again.
Yes, once again. So we actually did things a little differently for this go-around.
Yeah, usually we just watch the movies in the order they came out. This time we want to do something a little bit more in-universe chronologically.
Yeah, because we always watch Iron Man first and then Incredible Hulk. So this time we decided to basically watch Captain America first.
So with a couple modifications, we started with the prologue of Thor with the Frost Giants.
Right.
And then jumping into this with, skipping this movie's prologue and saving that part for later.
Yeah, it was a fun bit. When you watch that, where you find that where the Frost Giants attack?
Tonsberg, Norway.
And then where does the Red Skull pick up the cube?
Tonsberg, Norway.
Hey, nice. Very nice. When you watch Captain America, the first Avenger, you actually do get the genesis of all the other movies. You get like a Howard Stark in there, which leads to Iron Man. You get the super soldier thing, which is what Bruce Banner was sort of working on.
And you get references to, the cube came from Odin's cell, and there's when the Red Skull's looking forward, he remarks on the art of, Yggdrasil, the world tree, which is referenced in Thor. So so this was the last film released before the Avengers in the set, and it's also the origin of everything. So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But putting all that aside, of the four movies that introduced all these characters, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and Thor, this one is actually my favorite of the set. I know this is a minority opinion. Most people seem to like Iron Man the best.
Yeah.
But this one's my favorite, probably because Captain America is one of my favorite heroes. And I think I've come to that as I've grown up. I've started to like these, conflicted anti-heroes a lot less than I used to. I kind of prefer the Boy Scout heroes like Captain America and Superman a lot more. Probably because they are a little harder to write and make interesting, but when they succeed in doing that, I think it makes for some of the best stories around.
Yeah. Especially when it's done this well, because
one of
the cool things about the way that Captain America is written in this movie is that he is that really morally upstanding gentleman, patriot, but he really feels like he could be a real guy.
Yeah.
And still like an inspiration and all that stuff, which kind of helps with that.
Yeah, cool. They managed to create a pretty good synergy with all these different elements.
It was so frustrating when, for the longest time, the only Captain America movies we had were the 1970s ones with Red Brown, which didn't use any of the comics, or the shitty low-budget 1991 that just kind of...
Yeah, it used the origin, but it's so cheap and badly written.
Yeah.
And back then they were only making these movies one at a time, and now we have just a sea of these storylines and characters appearing on movie screens and TV screens. So that's nice.
Like we were always talking about how in order to make a proper Captain America movie, we should at least have an entire movie with him in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And then at the end he can get frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then...
Which is exactly what they did.
Yeah, exactly what they did. So it's nice to finally get the shared universe thing going, which even when they started making a lot of superhero movies, they still weren't on board for doing that until Marvel stepped up and started making them their own way.
Another thing I like about this movie is that, being set in the 40s, they decided, okay, let's make this movie in the style of kind of an old-fashioned movie.
Yeah.
And so one thing they got Joe Johnston, who directed The Rocketeer a bunch of years ago, and which is really good. This is almost like a spiritual sequel to The Rocketeer in a lot of ways.
Or, a charming young hero who goes up against Nazis and stuff.
Yeah, or Hydra in this case. Back on the discussion boards, when this movie was in the early stages, we were talking about, okay, how would they do this thing? How would they do this element? And one thing that came up was the costume. So we suggested Batman Begins was big at the time, so I did a post about, okay, here's how I would do the costume. First, we introduced the costume that he uses for shows, for USO or whatever.
Yeah.
It's cheap. It's not very functional. It looks kind of silly, and he's just doing the shows because he has to raise war bonds, whatever.
Yeah.
And then later he slaps together kind of a makeshift costume for missions, and this would be kind of like the one we see at the beginning of the Ultimates with the helmet and everything.
Yeah.
And then later he gets his official costume, and that's more like his official costume from the comics. And that is basically what we get here to the letter, which is another reason I like this movie, is because it's basically the movie that I would have made if I could. Or maybe even better than the movie.
When he puts on the, with a monkey suit for the big show, it's like, well, there he is. He's in the Captain America costume. That
he's got the shield
hard.
and everything.
Yeah, now we just gotta get him in a proper tactical suit, which actually turned out to be pretty simple. Another thing this one does surprisingly well is it has a really good supporting cast.
Yes.
You got Peggy Carter, who was so good, she got her own spin-off.
Yes.
And you got, of course, Tommy Lee Jones, who is Tommy Lee Jones ever. And I really, really liked Stanley Tucci as Erskine.
Yeah.
Who,
who's not in the movie much, but
but he leaves
really
a nice
good.
impression. He's a great sort of mentor figure. And he's also kind of, got some great one-liners.
Yeah, do you have a procedure tomorrow? No fluids.
All right, we'll drink it after.
I don't have a procedure tomorrow. I'll drink it now. As to, making this an old-fashioned style movie, I tried to picture, they could have made this movie, like, in the 90s or the 70s or something. And one element is, like, with modern special effects, you can finally realize all the different superpowers and all these other high-concept elements from the comic books in all their glory. And I wonder, okay, so for the first part of the movie, we have Chris Evans CGI'd onto this skinny little pre-serum body where he's rejected from the army due to health reasons and such. And like, how would you do that in the age before computer effects, where you could just put the actor's face on another body?
You just do that now, and you don't even think about it. So
Right. You just kind of get the hang of it. In the 1990 low-budget one, they basically just put the actor in like oversized clothes for the first part and stuff, and it's like, okay, trust us. The super soldier serum makes it bigger. It's like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, you can clearly, they're not fooling anybody. Now, I think the way to do this old school, like if you made this movie in the 70s, let's say, and you cast young Robert Redford as Cap. Okay, so what you do is if you have a resourceful enough casting department and can cast a wide enough net, you find some young actor, with a slim build who looks or can be made to look like Robert Redford. You basically have them him and this kid collaborate on all the scenes. Redford will do the scene, and the other guy will mimic it for the cameras, and then basically they just dub over Redford's voice for all those scenes.
Kind of like what they did in the original Superman. It was like Jeff Easton, I think, plays the teenage Clark, and then Christopher Reeve did the voice.
Yeah, so they believe it's the same guy. Just kind of add that little extra thing. There's a prevailing wisdom that only now can we make all these movies. I think that's only just because the business is ready for these superhero movies. But I really think if any studio wanted to, they could have made any of these movies at any time. If they gave a damn about them. I guess let's talk about Hugo Weaving.
The Red Skull. Yes, can't forget the Red Skull.
And he plays Red Skull as he should be played, which is basically a giant ham.
Yeah.
I remember when he was first cast. They announced that it was going to be Hugo Weaving, and I was a little bit disappointed. Now, I knew he was going to be good, because he's Hugo Weaving, and he's awesome. He was Agent Smith, he was Elrond, he was in V for Vendetta. I was just, like, I kind of wanted somebody who was, like, actually German, like Tom Kretschmann, who's going to be playing Baron Strucker. And casting Hugo just seemed kind of lazy, almost. He's the guy that they cast for this stuff all the time.
Yeah. Especially since we just seen Thor and we got introduced to Tom Hiddleston as Loki.
Yeah, which we'll talk about later.
They did actually kind of change his biography from the comics, but
in the comics he's much younger, and I don't think he's really a scientist.
But here they did kind of what you'd expect to make him Captain America's opposite number. He's got the same, enhanced strength and all that stuff.
And he's also the big bad supervillain in charge of everything, which is where the scientist stuff comes in.
Yeah. I did really like the whole thing where, he thinks that his enhancements make him superior, and Captain America, he does not, and that actually pisses Red Skull off.
Yeah, that's what a lot of Red Skull's villainous speeches have to do with. It's like, why are you, such a good guy? Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Seems like a lot of the, complaints that are thrown around about this movie come in the second half, starting with the whole montage in the middle.
Yeah, they kind of got blaze through the rest of the war really quick.
Which I really didn't mind all that much.
Yeah, I didn't either. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's one of the really poor decisions in the 1991 where, he becomes Captain America, and he goes on one mission, and he gets frozen from that. It's like, that's why we got to have a whole movie dedicated to this part.
Yeah.
And that's what they did here. We get his whole wartime career in one movie, which not a lot of movies do. Not a lot of movies had that sort of, years-long, sprawling, epic storyline.
Yeah, I remember on the internet some people were arguing, we should have like a trilogy of movies of his war career, and I'm like, that wouldn't be bad, but I don't think it's practical.
Yeah,
I think they got to do one movie and then get him into the Avengers, which is what they did.
Most superhero movies, like most of the movies in this series, like take place over the course of a couple of days, maybe a few months, like Iron Man. But this one takes place over several years, which is kind of
which is great because that makes it a war epic.
There's also the big action-packed finale, which kind of would have been a lot better with some more interesting dialogue and fight banter, which always annoyed me.
You don't give up, do you?
Nope. But he does get better at that in his subsequent film appearances.
Yeah. So
that's it for Captain America, and next up is Iron Man.